Hey everybody, this is Tom again. In Western North Carolina, I'm working on this chair still. I got my rockers fitted in there for the final time. I've got them all slicked up with sandpaper. And anyways, I'm going to glue them in now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one little small mark right there and right there. I've got marks underneath here, but they're kind of hard to see when you go to put the rockers on and glue them on. So I'm going to put those little marks on there. I'm going to get these rockers off. And while I've got them off right now, I'm going to get rid of these marks that were up here on the, up here. Just very lightly sanding them out of there. Anyways, you maybe can see I've got that dished out just a little bit right there and right there, where it's going to go down in there. Got a mark right there. Get that out of there. Get that out of there. Sometimes those pencil marks don't want to come out. Try the eraser. I saw on that show This Old House one time, I think it was on This Old House, somebody asked how you get the marks out. Maybe it was some other woodworking show, I can't remember. Pencil marks, how do you get pencil marks out? Maybe it was in Fine Woodworking Magazine, I don't know. But the answer given by the expert was the eraser on your pencil is really good for that purpose. Okay, so I'm going to glue these rockers in right now. So I'm going to take my glue, and I haven't got a good place to put it in there. I could just put it somewhere right on the bottom of the hole. But you know that in the bottom of the hole, in the bottom there, it's not going to do any good because I got it relieved and I've got this relieved. It's not even going to touch. But you can get the glue, that little glob of glue you put in there, you can get it, pick it up from the bottom there with your nail, my nail, and move it up onto these sides, what I call the sides. And I didn't put enough glue in there. Get a little more. It's been so long since I've done this, I don't know how much you need. I'll put some in here. Put some in here. Put some in here. Drop my nail. So I'm just trying to coat these two, what are they, vertical surfaces. Trying to get some glue onto them. Again, I didn't get enough glue in there. Don't know. Like I say, it's been so long since I've done it, I don't remember. That looks like, that just looks like too much. Anyways, I appreciate you guys watching these videos and commenting. I like the comments. I don't consider myself to be any kind of a perfectionist, but some of this stuff, like this chair making and shaving horse making, I've just done it so many times that I've got little ways that I do things that I think are kind of right. And they're maybe not right, but they make for a good enough product for what I think I want. I messed up that one tenon over there, or that one mortise. There's going to be a little bit of an ugly gap there, but I don't know. Out of practice. This one I got maybe too much glue in here. But like I say, that glue on the bottom's just gonna, those holes with that relief I've got in there and the relief on the rocker, that's not gonna be any consequence. Now what happens when you put these rockers in, if these two legs were straight up and down and parallel with each other, you could set that rocker down in there possibly without any glue getting where you don't want it. But the legs aren't parallel with each other. You know, they're like that, front leg, back leg. So there's no way you can put the rocker in without a little bit of glue coming on it somewhere where you don't want it. So you got to wipe that off afterwards. But it's good to try to get it go in right where it's supposed to be so that you don't have to move it around a lot. I'm looking at my mark right there that I had there. It disappeared a little bit, so I got right there's my mark. That one's in, that one's in. Okay, I'm going to go for this one now. Looking at my mark right there. That one went in almost perfect right there. Don't use your hand as a hammer, they say. Alright. So if you get any glue smeared out, it's best to get it off of there right now. Didn't get too much out. Don't see much anyways. There's a little bit right there. All right, now those are in, but I want them to stay in and I want them to be tight. So I'm going to put this clamp on right here. Pretty much right straight down. I've got it hooked on the rung right here. That's mashing that down right there. That joint there looks pretty good. I'm not going to change it now, even if it didn't, but just looking at it. Okay, now I'm putting the clamp on this side. And then I'm going to put clamps on right here. I think these are long enough, yep. I'm right on the top of the front post right there. You could clamp on this rung here, but I've got these clamps that are long enough, so I'm using them. Those joints all look good. And so now then I'm going to take these clamps here and put them on like this. Oh, I guess that probably looks like overkill, but I think in general, whenever you glue something, unless it's some kind of tight fit like these rungs are, there's no way you can clamp down. It's best, or it's just common practice to clamp. Tighten them up and so they stay and get that glue binds up. I believe it's possible to over tighten clamps, so you got to be aware of that sometimes. Anyway, so that's what a rocking chair looks like when the rockers are just freshly glued on. I'm going to move that over right now because I'm sure that this is pretty short right now. I'm going to show you a couple other things. Now the next thing that I'm going to do to this chair is I'm going to drill a hole right here and over there to put a peg in. These rockers are going to be pegged in. So I'm going to drill the hole with a 1/4 inch drill, and I've got a drill bit that's called a tapered drill. And the reason you would use a tapered drill is because it's less likely that there's going to be a lot of tear out on the exit side of the hole. And so a tapered drill is called for in this situation. I have a tapered drill. You don't have to go out and buy a tapered drill. You can use a regular drill. It's just you got to back up you got to back it up. You got to back it up with this anyways, but you got to back up that hole with a piece of wood or something so it just doesn't bust out on the exit when the drill exits the hole. So anyways, I made my pegs yesterday, and here they are. Well, here's one. This is 2 pegs. 1 piece of wood, 2 pegs. This will get cut in half. And then there's my other 2 right there. I've got 4 pegs. They've got to be long enough to go all the way through and stick out a little bit, maybe 1/8 of an inch on the other side. And maybe you can see this, that I have a slot cut in the end. And that's going to be for the wedge. On the one side, on the outside here, there's going to be a head, a square head. And then on the inside, it's going to be wedged. So you've got to make your pegs. And I made myself a block, old scrap of wood, and I drilled 3 holes in it. 1 hole being drilled with the drill that I'm going to use for this. 1/4 inch. These are 1/4 inch. That's a 1/4 inch hole. And this hole is 1/64 bigger than that one. And this one's a 1/64 bigger than that one. So, first you test in this hole, then this hole, and then this hole. It doesn't have to be a super tight fit, but you want it to be reasonably, you want to have to sort of work it in just a little bit, but not too bad. Because your head's going to cover this end of the hole. And then on the other end, your wedge, hopefully this end, the small end, is good enough so that when your wedge goes in, excuse me, it's going to expand that out and fill up the whole hole. So that's how I go about that. And I just whittled them with a knife. I whittled the round part with a knife. the square part, just like making those other pegs, I can't remember if I showed you or not. I'm pretty sure I did on the how to make a chair video. On this one, I made a square blank using a plane, and I made the blank 1/64 bigger than a quarter. So my head is, bigger than the rest of it. Anyways, I made a blank, and I found a piece of wood. It's red oak, I'm sure, but I found a piece of wood that had fat enough growth rings where there's only one early wood in the middle of this peg. I really, when I make pegs, I don't want early wood to be on the outside edge of the peg, because I think that stuff crushes up too bad and doesn't look good, especially on the heads. And so these pegs, the heads are just going to have one piece of early wood, right? Not exactly in the middle on this one, but on the outside sides, there's good solid late wood. Anyways, I planed them 1/64 bigger than a quarter, and then I, worked on these ends down to fit in these holes I just showed you. Anyways, then you got to make your wedges, and I used that same piece of wood that had that real fat late wood in it, because when I make a wedge, I want the wedge to be solid late wood, not any early wood in it. And so I made my wedges, and I made the wedges I set up my vise like this. I'm pretty sure that's in the camera. Yeah, I think. But I set my vise up like this. I made a shelf, and then I made a backstop. And so haven't got very good ergonomical position right here to show you exactly how you do it. But I hold that piece of wood there, and I work it with a chisel like that, and I can work the sides, and I can work it like that. And that's how I personally made these wedges. Now, another way to make wedges is with a belt sander. If you got just a regular handheld belt sander, if you can clamp that thing down, holding this on a belt sander is a pretty good way to make wedges, and I have made wedges that way. And I might even make my arm wedges that way when I get to it. But I just went ahead and made this old-fashioned method. Nope, dropped one. Anyways, and then something about the wedges is that wedge has to be small enough to go into the hole. It has to enter the hole, but then it should get wider so that when you drive it in, it actually, when it fills up that kerf in your peg, it should completely fill the kerf end to end, so there's no little hole going in. You don't want that to just be filled part way. So your wedge has to be tapered in the regular wedge direction, and it also has to be sort of tapered in the other direction so you can get it into the hole, but then it fills the whole hole up. And the thickness of the wedge is kind of dictated by how big you make this kerf. It can't be very much bigger than the kerf, because if it is, it could just break the end of the peg off. And so it's got to be related to the size of the kerf there. And I cut these kerfs with my coping saw that I used on these. Cut those mortises out, the bottoms of the mortise. And I use a coping saw on that purpose because I think it is the smallest, thinnest blade that I have. It cuts the smallest kerf. You can cut that with any saw you want, but just you got to relate your wedge to the size of that kerf. Anyways, that's probably enough of talking about that. Something else I want to show you, just to take up the room on this video, is the peg for the arms. There's going to be a peg that goes down through the top of the arm into the top of the front post. And you got to make it at some point. And anyways, this is how I'm going to make these. This is how I make them. Is usually I find a piece of coal or extra rung and get you a piece off of that. I cut these pieces 4 inches, and the peg, the hole, we're going to drill the hole 2 inches deep, but you got to have a little bit extra sticking out the top to make your little round over on the top, whatever you call that, the little protrusion. And so I generally want to make this peg about 2 1/4 inches long. And I'm going to make the peg using one of these here hollow bits. I don't know what these things maybe are called, plug cutters or something, but it's the same tool I use, you know, to make the tenons on my rungs. This isn't the exact same tool because I got a stop and everything on my other one. This is an extra. But I'm going to put this in my drill press. And there's some holes in my drill press table because, you know, that happens. But I've got this chamfered so it'll fit in one of those holes, and I'm going to line that, you know, bit up exactly with one of those holes, and I'm going to be able to hold this piece with these here vice grips, and I'm going to be able to make that peg with this tool. If you don't have that tool, you can just very carefully make the peg, you know, using sandpaper, spoke shave, whatever it takes. But I guess what you would do is you would drill a hole with the drill you're going to use, and then keep testing that peg in that hole. It doesn't have to be a perfect fit because we're going to wedge the bottom of that peg. We're going to wedge this down in the bottom. We're going to put a blind wedge in there. Sometimes I've heard it called a fox wedge, but a blind wedge in the bottom. And then we're going to also wedge the top. The most critical fit point is the top there. That top needs to really fit good and take up all the space in the hole. If it doesn't, you know, you see little spots where there's, well, I call them air holes or shadow spots. So anyways, got to make those pegs. So anyways, those were things that I thought of that I could tell you on this. I assume it's a short video. I don't have a clock or anything here. So anyways, it's a little cloudy out today. It's a beautiful day though. And everything's going good at this end. I'm getting a little bit done on this chair. A little bit at a time. Anyways, I'm thankful for what I have. I shipped a shaving horse this morning and putting that on vacation for a little while till I get this chair done and put maybe a couple other things. Anyways, I'm thankful for what I have. I hope you can be thankful too. I'm going to have to crawl out of here to turn the camera off. Hope you're having a good day out there, and I'll catch you another time. Bye.